6:30, I'll call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge, and Pastor Nathan Heck is with us today. He'll offer the invocation.
Let's bow our heads and pray. Father God, we thank you for this day, the sunshine outside, this opportunity to gather and to do the business for each and every one of the folks here in Finney County. Father, I pray for each commissioner and their wisdom as they move forward and the decisions they make. And I pray for this entire community, Father, that you've blessed us with. Father, I pray for protection over each and every one of the community members and each and every one of our first responders out there, keeping this community safe. Thank you for this blessing, Lord, on this day, and give us wisdom. In your name we pray. Amen. Oh, I did.
Come back. Rain. He said when he prays for it, it happens.
I know, that's why I said.
I forgot.
Okay, first on our agenda, we have approval of the consent agenda. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to that? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
I would so move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. I know we have public comment. We're going to save that until after our special presentation this morning. We only have 3 people signed up. If you are here and you have not signed up yet, go ahead and step up here and sign up with Dory, and she'll get you checked in for that. So we'll start off with our special presentation on the large electrical load projects, and Jim McVeigh with Wheatland Electric is going to kick that off for us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a great morning
Yes.
to be representing our democracy here. Wheatland and Sunflower are both proud to be here to thank you for this opportunity. I want to just give some introductory remarks. Sunflower's got a PowerPoint presentation for you, and I'd like to follow that up with some comments from Wheatland about our place and the role that we are as the distribution cooperative. Not knowing what all the questions could be from you all and the comments from them, I made sure we had the whole gang here. From your left to right, our CEO, Bruce Miller. We want to make sure we can answer any questions you have. Luke West, our water division. A lot of people sometimes don't know we have a water division that's very active in serving 4 wholesale customers in Finney County. And Allie Conine, she's the public face of Wheatland. It's the member services and communications folks. The Sunflower team is also just as well represented here with Corey, and they'll explain their position and everything. And Nikki Fonesteel is here. Again, those are just my introductory remarks, and Corey will have a presentation, but I really do appreciate at the end of this, Wheatland giving their few minutes as well.
Awesome, thank you. And before we go any further, I do just want to say, we believe we have our sound system fixed. We hope we do. If there's anybody out here in the audience, if there's anybody watching us live and you're having trouble hearing, please let us know. We do have staff monitoring that. We want to make sure that we know if we're not able to be heard. We certainly want everybody to hear and understand what's going on. So keep us posted. And Corey, come on up, give us your name and go ahead.
All right, thank you and good morning. I'm Corey Linville. I'm the Chief Operations Officer of our Power Supply and Generation for Sunflower. I've been with the company for 33 years. We also have Nikki Fanenstill. Nikki is our Manager of Economic Development. So we're happy to be here along with Wheatland to review what we do when we get a request to connect a large electrical load. It is a pretty complicated process. There's a lot of entities involved, so I'm going to step through the process. Feel free to jump in with any questions as we go, or we can take questions at the end.
Okay.
If you can advance the slide. We'll start off with a discussion of the entities that are involved. So you've met Wheatland, you've met Sunflower. If you go to the next slide, there's actually a third entity that's involved as well, and that's the Southwest Power Pool. So when a large load wants to interconnect to the system, their first contact is typically with the local distribution provider, which in this area is Wheatland Electric. Wheatland is a member owner of Sunflower Electric. We're a generation and transmission cooperative. I'll get into a little more detail on each of these entities on the next slides. And then Sunflower is a member of the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP. SPP is a regional transmission organization. They were formed in the early 2000s when FERC mandated open access to the electric transmission grid. They provide several services, including providing transmission service across the bulk electric system, studying new interconnection requests to ensure reliability is protected, and managing and administering the wholesale energy market that we all operate under. If you go to the next slide. If you don't know, the state of Kansas is governed by the Kansas Retail Electric Suppliers Act. And under that act, there are territories established in the state. You can see a map of those territories on this map. Those territories dictate who the certified retail electric service provider is. And anybody wishing to interconnect to the system or take electric service within a territory is obligated to take service from the provider in that territory. And the utility who's in that territory is also obligated to provide electric service. So if anybody wants to connect to a system that's in Wheatland service territory, they have to talk to Wheatland, and Wheatland is obligated to provide them service under an agreed upon pricing structure. Next slide. The generation transmission cooperative, as I mentioned, Sunflower is a generation transmission cooperative. We have 7 member owners. Wheatland Electric is one of those member owners. Our role is to provide generation and transmission or wholesale electric service to our members. So we were formed back in the 50s. Group of electric co-ops got together and consolidated provision of generation and transmission through one entity. And all the member owners have a all requirements contract with Sunflower. So each of our member owners, which you can see represented on this map, have to buy 100% of their wholesale generation and transmission needs from Sunflower. In turn, we ensure that they meet all the SPP requirements. They have everything they need to provide that electric service. Next slide. And then SPP, again, they're a regional transmission organization. They have several roles. As our discussion today, we'll talk about how we study and connect new loads. They are responsible for administering what they call the open access transmission tariff. That tariff defines requirements for requesting service, taking service, paying for service. Very large document, but it describes all the processes we have to go through, the studies we have to complete when a new load wants to connect to the system. Next slide. So now that you know who's involved, we'll talk about the steps that are actually involved in providing service to a large load. If you go to the next slide, there's really 4 major components. The first is power supply. That's ensuring that there's adequate generation capacity to serve the load. So as you all know, we have to have enough supply to meet demand any given instant in time. So at all times, we have to meet demand with supply. And SPP has a set of rules to ensure that there is adequate generation available to serve a load. When a new load gets connected, we have to increase the amount of generation we have to ensure that that load can be served reliably. Second step is to procure transmission service. So there has to be a firm delivery path across the transmission system to get that energy from the generation to the load. And we'll talk in quite a bit of detail about kind of what that process looks like to ensure that that service is available. The third thing you need is the actual physical interconnection facilities. So you need to have a connection to the grid. You have to have the conductors, the breakers, the relays, the switches, everything that's required to physically connect your facility to the bulk electric grid. And then finally, you need the retail electric service agreement. That's the agreement that dictates how a large load takes service from the retail provider and how Sunflower, as the wholesale provider, also plays into that. And we'll show you some details on what we call a RESA, Retail Electric Service Agreement, looks like for a large load. Power supply, as I mentioned, that's the responsibility to ensure there's adequate generation capacity to serve load at any given time. SPP has what they call resource adequacy rules. Those rules dictate how much accredited capacity you have to have from generation resources to meet the peak demand, the peak electric consumption of a large load. Those rules were strengthened significantly after Winter Storm Uri in 2021. If you all recall, we had an extended cold weather event. During that cold weather event, there were several generation outages. There was not adequate supply to meet demand, and as a result, SPP had to issue curtailment orders. So we actually had to go through rolling blackouts during that period. Not something we ever want to do again. And SPP responded to that with some more stringent resource adequacy rules to ensure we have adequate generation even during extreme conditions. So the base SPP resource adequacy requirement for any given load is that that load has to have enough accredited capacity from their generation to meet their summer peak load and their winter peak load, plus a planning reserve margin on top of that. And when I say accredited capacity, there's a whole set of rules that SPP has identified to allocate accreditation to resources. For thermal resources or non-renewable resources, you start by demonstrating how much you can actually produce from a power plant during specified ambient conditions in the summer and the winter. So our Holcomb unit, for instance, when it's 90 degrees in the summer, we'll demonstrate how much we can generate from that unit at full load. That's the starting point. And then there are penalties that are applied based on the availability of the unit over a period of time. So if we have a forced outage due to a maintenance problem or some other issue, our accredited value will be deducted from that starting point based on how available we are. So it incentivizes generator owners to stay available. For renewables resources, there's a process called effective load carrying capacity or capability. I'm not going to get into the details of that because it's pretty complicated, but it's really a determination of how much generation can reliably be expected from a resource during peak conditions. So for wind, as an example, it doesn't blow all the time, but it blows, a certain percentage of the time. And you can accredit an amount of the nameplate capacity based on how much you can expect to be there. So for wind, typically it's about 15 to 20% of the nameplate we can use as accredited to meet our requirements. And then the planning reserve margin is a calculation that SPP does. They want to ensure that there is enough generation to meet demand, and they do what's called a 1 in 10 loss of load expectation study. That means when they model it, they study it, they want to ensure that there's no more than 1 day during 10 years when generation is not available to meet the demand. Next slide. So then the next element, once you have the generation established, is to have the transmission service from the generation to the load. And there's a series of studies that are typically involved in that. Some of those are summarized on this slide. So once I have a generator, I obviously have to connect it to the system, and I have to ensure that the system is able to support however many megawatts are going to be injected from that generator. That study is called the Generator Interconnection Study. Similarly, when I have a new load that wants to interconnect, I have to ensure that the system, the facilities, the conductors and everything can support that amount of load service. So I do a delivery point addition study. And then I have to ensure that the path between the generation and the load is also adequate enough to convey however many megawatts are required by the load to be served. So that's the transmission service study. Each of these studies are pretty extensive, and when you study it, if there are problems, they could drive upgrades to ensure that the facility is built up enough to support whatever's connecting to the system. If you go to the next slide. When I talk about studies, there's really two main categories. There's steady state and there's transient. Steady state studies look at the grid and a given topology, and when I say topology, it's what type of load do you have at each substation, what type of output do you have from your generation, what's available, and can those generators reliably serve all that load without overloading any of the transmission lines or causing the generation to be overloaded. So I show an example topology here. On the left, you can see kind of a starting point. Each one of the blue boxes is a substation. Those numbers in the blue boxes represent an amount of electrical load that's being served by that substation. And then you can see the 3 generators that are being used to serve that load. Each of the connections between the substations, the transmission line, will have a facility rating. That's the amount of energy flow that that particular transmission line can support before it overloads. In this example, all the lines are just rated at 45 MVA. So you can see that all the flows are well below that limit in this example. On the right, we have a new load that wants to come in, and they want to interconnect 20 megawatts at a substation, and they're going to install a new 25 megawatt generator to support that. So when I add that to the system, electricity is going to follow the path of least resistance. So it's going to change the dynamics of how those electrons flow across those wires. And you can see where I've shown the yellow flows, we have an increase in flow across those lines. There's a few areas where you have a decrease in flow because of that new generation. But all the new numbers with that new topology are below the 45 MVA limit, so we're still okay. But we don't stop there. If you go to the next slide, we have to do what's called N-1 contingency planning. So we don't just study the system intact with that new load. We also have to go in and outage each one of the individual transmission lines, restudy the system with that line out, and ensure we don't have any upgrades. So what I've shown on the left is the same thing I showed on the previous slide with the new load added. But when we go through and do the N-1 outages, I get to this particular outage where I have the purple X. If I take that line out, and you can see before I took that line out, it was supporting 32 MVA flow across it. If I take that line out, everything has to be reconfigured. The flows are going to go a different direction in order to support the loads. You can see there's going to be increased flow to the north and to the south to support that, and that line up in the upper left-hand corner where we have the red, the flow across that's going to be 46 MVA, which is greater than our limit. So we can't support that under that condition. We have to upgrade that facility. That upgrade could require building new lines, building a whole new line. Different types of upgrades are associated with different types of problems. We'll talk about how those get paid for here in a minute, but that's just an example of the study process. It's very involved when you talk about the whole grid, when you have literally thousands of facilities and you have to individually outage each one of those to ensure that the grids can still support the load with that configuration. If you go to the next slide, the other type of studies we do are called transient studies. Those are studies that look at when you have a fault that occurs, it's instantaneous, and electricity is alternating current, which means there are 60 cycles every second that occur. And when you have a fault, you want to make sure that that alternating current, the frequency is constant. You want to make sure that your voltage doesn't drop too much and it's able to ride through the fault. And we do that through an analysis of transient conditions. And again, the details of that are super complicated, and I definitely don't want to bore you with that. But it is a detailed analysis that, with large loads, is particularly important because they can have a significant impact on voltage and frequency, and you want to make sure that you can recover within just a few milliseconds if there is a fault. Otherwise, the problem can propagate. You can have a reliability issue that you really want to try to avoid. Next slide. So as I mentioned, when you do a study, if you identify a problem, you need to mitigate that problem. The mitigation typically involves either upgrading a facility or building a new facility. That's going to cost money. How that upgrade is paid for is dictated in part by the SPP Open Access Transmission Tariff. So they have cost allocation methodologies which define how much of that cost is paid for by the load that's triggering it, how much is paid for by the local area, and how much is paid for by allocating costs across that entire 17-state region that SPP covers. Typically for the larger, higher voltage upgrades, everybody in SPP is going to pay for a part of that. There's a cost allocation methodology where you pay what's called your load ratio share. You look at your load compared as a percentage of the total load in SPP, and that's your share of that cost. But once these upgrades are triggered, costs are identified, notice to constructs go out, and the upgrades get built, whoever is requesting that load service can't take load service until all those upgrades are completed. In some cases, you can have partial service until the full upgrade is completed, but you can't take your full service until those upgrades are done. And for a large load, and we're talking about very large projects sometimes, that can take time. It can take 2, 3, 4, 5 years sometimes to build an upgrade. So it's an involved process to do the study and then potentially a lengthy process to build the upgrades required to support the load. Next slide. In addition to those individual studies I talked about when a load wants to interconnect, SPP also does an annual study. That study looks at the system as is with forecasted load and forecasted generation over the next 10 years. And then SPP will identify upgrades required over a longer term to support what they see as projected load growth. This is really kind of more like if you think of the highway analogy, more like the interstate planning versus the highway byway planning that we do on a local level. What you see on the right are some of the large upgrades that SPP has identified in some of their annual studies. A lot of these upgrades are 345 kV, which that's the size of line that we have coming out of our Holcomb station. And some are actually 765 kV, which is a whole nother level higher than 345. Currently, there's no 765 in SPP, so this would be a brand-new type of a transmission line. But they've identified the need based on the amount of load that's being forecasted, not just from data centers, but from all new loads. In fact, a lot of the load being projected in SPP is not data center load. There's a lot of oil and gas growth, a lot of other manufacturing type load that's being forecasted in SPP that needs this type of electrical infrastructure to support it. Next slide. Then the third step, as I mentioned, is the actual facilities required to connect the load to the grid. Again, conductors, switches, breakers, relays. The bigger the load, the higher voltage you typically have to interconnect that, the more extensive that type of construction is. There's a lot of demand for these components because of all the load being added to the system. So when we talk about something like a 345 kV breaker, for example, there's a long lead time for that. And that's part of what dictates the overall schedule required to construct the facilities to connect these types of loads. When we talk about these facilities, those are 100%, the cost for those are 100% allocated to the customer requesting service. So those are not shared by anybody else. It's paid 100% by the load. I keep saying load, just so you know, that's the demand or the large customer, the amount of electricity that they're going to consume. We refer to that as a load. Next slide. And then the final step is the retail electric service agreement, the agreement that dictates how service would be provided, what the costs are, what some of the special provisions are. And for loads greater than 50 megawatts, Sunflower and our members have developed a special contract which defines a higher level of requirement from the load side, the customer side, to support their service. And it reduces some of the risks to other members that are currently taking service from our members. So again, within that RISA, we'll define the cost for service or the rate that that consumer will pay, the required collateral. We're going to require a lot of upfront security posting because they're going to be running up a lot of costs. We want to make sure that we always have enough money available to cover whatever cost they may be incurring. We don't want to get to a point where we bill them and we're on the hook for a lot of money that we don't have security for. There are specific reliability requirements for large loads incremental to a more conventional load. The RISA will define what those requirements are and how the load needs to comply. And then we also will talk about the interaction with the SPP wholesale energy market, which is called the SPP Integrated Marketplace. So Sunflower will be the market participant that gives the consumer access to that market. All generation and all loads in SPP participate in that market. It's a way for SPP to identify on any given day the most economic generation that's available to serve the load across the entire SPP footprint, dispatch that based on economics while protecting reliability, and benefits everybody by providing the cheapest energy because of that economic dispatch of generation. We'll provide access to that market for the large consumers. Next slide. I mentioned that we have special requirements for large loads. One of the biggest requirements that we have for large loads is they bring their own generation. They are responsible for finding enough capacity to meet that resource adequacy requirement that we talked about. For all of our other loads, Sunflower owns the generation. We go out and build that, we operate it, we maintain it. Those costs are part of the rate that we provide to our members. For loads that are greater than 50 megawatts, we don't want to go out and build a large generator, have the cost for that really be dependent on that large consumer being there. Because if they go away, we're going to be stuck with a big generator that we otherwise wouldn't have built that our members are going to have to pay for if that large consumer is not there. So we require the large consumers to provide their own generation, assign the capacity for that to us, Sunflower, so that we can meet their resource adequacy requirement through SPP. We also require large electric consumers to pay for their share of costs that are triggered by transmission upgrades due to them. So we talked about those generator interconnection studies, the delivery point addition studies, the transmission service studies. If any of those studies, which we're doing for a given load, trigger an upgrade, whatever cost for that upgrade get allocated to Sunflower, we're going to pass those through directly to that large consumer. We're not going to subject our other members to any cost associated with those upgrades that otherwise wouldn't have been there but for that large electric consumer connecting to the grid. So ultimately, what their rate will look like will be first of all, they'll pay for all their generation separately. They'll assign us the capacity. They'll get a pass-through of any SPP transmission charges. They'll get a pass-through of the energy charges associated with our participation in the SPP market. And then we'll also have a wholesale adder, which will go to Sunflower, and a retail adder, which will go to our member, such as Wheatland. And those adders are designed to cover any incremental costs that Sunflower or Wheatland might incur to serve that load, a share of our existing embedded costs, and then finally a premium on top of that to cover any risk. So ultimately, the revenue that we earn at both the Sunflower and the Wheatland level will ensure that our other members are benefiting from this load being there, from that extra revenue, to help keep our rates as low as we can. That being said, there's a lot of pressure on electric rates, and we'll just highlight some of those on the next couple of slides. If you go to the next slide, I mentioned the wholesale energy market and how SPP dispatches resources economically. One of the ways to think about that is a resource stack. So the generation resources that are available all have a production cost, amount of money that's required to produce energy at any given time. This isn't the fixed cost, so it doesn't include the cost to build the facility, but once the facility is built, how much does it cost to produce a unit of energy? You can stack those production costs from the cheapest to the most expensive, and then as your demand increases, you're going to go up that stack until you get to the last unit required to serve the last megawatt of demand. Whatever generation resources serves that last megawatt of demand, the production cost for that resource defines the wholesale energy price for that given period of time. So in this example, you can see we've stacked some generation resources from the cheapest to the most expensive, from bottom to top. At an electric demand of 600 megawatts, it's going to take the solar, the wind, and part of the coal to cover that. So because the coal unit is serving the last megawatt of demand, its $20 per megawatt hour production cost defines the market cost of energy for that time interval. That demand goes up, say because we have a bunch of new load, you're going to go higher up that stack to a more expensive unit. So if the demand goes up to 900 megawatts, now we're up into the more expensive gas-fired units. In this example, at 900 megawatts, we have a gas-fired engine that's producing energy at $30 a megawatt hour. That's the market price of energy that everybody pays for that particular interval in time. So as we have increased demand, we're going to have to go higher up that resource stack. The cost of energy is going to go up. Not only that, but we're probably going to be using a lot more gas. So the demand for gas may drive the price of natural gas higher. So those production costs for each individual unit is also likely to go up. If you go to the next slide, there are other factors that are putting pressure on electric rates as well. We have a lot of aging infrastructure on the electric grid. Wheatland and Sunflower are not alone in this. It's kind of just a symptom of how the grid was built out across the United States. We have transmission facilities that are 60, 70, 80 years old. We have generation that's 60 years old. Eventually, that's going to have to be replaced, and that costs money. There's significant demand for new generation, so that's driving prices up. Significant demand for new transmission, which is also driving prices up. I also talked about kind of some of the supply chain constraints. As that demand increases, not only does it drive the price up, it also increases delivery time. So a lot of factors that are putting pressure on electric rates. We're doing our best to manage that with our members. We're trying to be as efficient and effective using new technology as we can. We also see that if we can connect new load, it brings in revenue. And for these large customers, if we can add a premium, that additional margin helps us offset some of these rate pressures for the other members that we have that pay our rates. So from that perspective, we see this as a potential benefit to keep rates lower than they otherwise would have been. Next slide. Just a quick summary on the process that Sunflower has implemented with our members to help a large customer that's interested in connecting the system, help them actually do that. It's a three-phase process, so if we have somebody that's just wanting to see what we can do, we start them off at phase one. That involves high-level feasibility study. If they progress through that, they move to phase two. And I'll mention that each of these phases requires a deposit to Sunflower to cover our costs for analyzing these loads. It's a very time-consuming effort on our part to try to get them connected. We went through some of the process, but that takes time and money on our part. Phase 2 is where a lot of the studies get kicked off. We do a preliminary cost estimate for those interconnection facilities that I talked about. We start the SPP engineering studies, and then we do a preliminary rate analysis for the customer to see what their rate might ultimately be. And then finally, phase 3 is when we get into the actual execution of the retail electric service agreement, the execution of the agreement to construct the interconnection facilities, and the final cost estimates associated with that. And then when we get through that, construction begins, we have a customer under contract, and we're ready to go. So that's the conclusion of my part. Any questions on any of the stuff that I covered? I know it's a lot.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
Several questions.
Absolutely. Let's hear
Where
from
are we
Senior.
on the phases of these proposed projects for Finney County?
We currently we're having to do these in clusters. So when we get a group of applications, we group them together because we need to not only look at the individual impact, but also the aggregate impact. So we study a lot of them together. We're currently involved in phase 2, progressing through those SPP studies on several projects in the first cluster.
So they're all above the 50 megawatt or whatever threshold, so they pay for all the interconnections and everything?
Yeah. We actually have some below 52, but the majority, the ones we're talking about today are greater than 50. So.
Second question, the SPP, do they take in the area south to Abilene, Texas, where that new great big huge development is, or is that part of it?
Yeah, so SPP goes into part of northern Texas in the Panhandle. I think Abilene's actually in ERCOT, which is the RTO in Texas. Yeah, it's a different RTO, ISO. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Commissioner Schultz, any questions for me? No. Commissioner Bascu? Commissioner Utes? All right, very good. Thank you so much for being here.
Yep,
Does
thank you.
Nikki have anything to add?
No, I'm here to support Corey, but
Okay.
thank you.
All right, very good. Okay, Jim, come on up.
Again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity here. There are two things that are really driving Wheatland's perspective on these incredibly unusual large load developments that are coming to this area when you consider, for example, the city of Garden City is about 50 to 60 megawatts maybe, and they're asking us for sometimes 500 and above megawatts. It's just a new thing for us. And for 2 years, I've been fielding these calls. Most of them go away because we tell them how much it's going to cost them, which is because we need to protect our members, we need to protect our everybody that's associated with Wheatland, we need to protect our system. But because of this, there's two things that drive us. First one is what Corey's brought up, the Retail Electric Suppliers Act. We have a, quote, right and responsibility to serve any, quote, load-consuming facility, in other words, for use, which is every facility, in our service territory assigned to us by the commission. If we start trying to pick and choose or run these folks off without being reasonable, the legislature's going to hear about it and we're going to lose that right. We're going to lose the ability in the future to earn margins that can offset what's coming our way. That's how Wheatland is looking at it. Secondly, these large loads, you think about the SPP footprint, 17 states, all those counties. There are many of those counties that are looking forward to this for their own reasons. They are coming to our footprint. They are going to be raising costs because of the SPP allocations to the large overall grid that will be paid by load ratio share. So even then, that large load, even that part, is going to be paying huge lion's share of it. But the bottom line, it's coming. The question is, how is that handled by SPP? And those studies that they have a whole bunch of guys like Corey, a whole bunch of guys and gals like Corey that are sitting around figuring out one thing. How was every single person in that footprint going to turn the lights on by just flipping a switch? Their main thing, their dedication, their purpose in being is reliability for every single person. And only through these studies if they're successful and they pay for all the upgrades, will they get interconnected, or they will not be interconnected? So the really question becomes, what is Wheatland going to do about it? What do we do in this situation knowing this is going to happen? One, if we do this, the developer load is what Corey calls, because that's how engineers talk to human beings. The developer is going to come in, they pay for any of those upgrades to our system. Anything that's going to cost our members, your voters in Finney County a penny is going to be paid for by those load. We took a different view of this, and we told them right up front, we're just not looking at this under normal rate-making scenarios where you just do your cost of service to serve what it's going to cost, and then what your revenue requirement is, and go right from there. No, what we did is there are risks out there that we have never faced before. What if they walk away? What if there's a contract violation and we don't get paid for a while? When you consider the amount of this, that potentially a bankruptcy event. What if they go into bankruptcy? All of those risks, we hired pretty smart folks to design what we're going to have for our retail adder and what Sunflower is also. And that adder is going to be used, and that's what we're going to use to protect our people. The retail adder to the rate paid by the developer will be significant and designed to capture the associated risk. Again, it is also designed to help offset any potential rate that we know is coming forward from the SPP open access transmission tariff allocations. The retail adder will generate a significant margin. The margin will be allow Wheatland to keep member rates stable for a longer period of time than if the load is not served by Wheatland. Also, for us, the developers will be members. They will have a special capital credit allocation and retirement system that will not endanger everybody else's that are our normal members, or what I call our native members, their allocations and retirement of their capital credits, so that it does not jeopardize their financing. Another way we have to look at this, there's nothing else out there. There is nothing else out there that would allow us to provide, charge a margin that we're going to charge these folks that's going to keep us and keep our rates stable long enough and much longer. There's just no other load out there, and we're going to take advantage of it. But if they come to our area, they're going to pay. Today, I also brought, let me stop. Is there any questions about what my comments? Today I brought with me because I know there's some issues about water. There's issues about what we're doing to help Lana and her public outreach and educating the citizenry. And so Luke West is the director of our water division.
I'll just kind of stick to my script here, guys.
Good morning. Tell us your name.
Luke West, I am the Director of Corporate Services for Wheatland and the Water Division. So we, as Jim mentioned earlier, the Water Division serves 4 wholesale customers. The City of Garden City is one of those. Tyson Foods is one of those. The Rural Water District, Finney County Rural Water District, and Sunflower itself. We have an agreement with the city where we have for years been reusing the effluent, which you guys have heard a little bit about. I won't get into, but there's a whole other project that the city's working on with that. So water is definitely one of those concerns that Wheatland looks at very carefully when these projects come along. This is obviously no different. We have a very mindful eye to that. So as an organization, Wheatland is more than just an electric distribution provider. We also operate a public water supply system. And we are committed not only to providing the safe and reliable electric service, but also to being responsible stewards of the region's groundwater resources. In addition to the many conservation initiatives already implemented by our water division to help sustain the aquifer for future generations, we are always interested in supporting projects that can further conserve this valuable resource while helping ensure a reliable water supply for the agricultural producers, communities, and industries that depend on it. One of the most recent examples of that commitment is our partnership on the Lone Bison project, the solar project, which you've heard about, and it's anticipated to actually conserve more than 1 billion gallons of groundwater annually by reducing the demand on irrigation. Part of that project is being developed on property that Wheatland determined was well suited for an alternative use, and again, can provide a great contribution to the long-term sustainability of the aquifer in that area. So again, just kind of wanted to reassure everybody that this water is something that Wheatland's very concerned with. And if you guys have any questions for me, I'll take them.
Any questions for Luke? All right, thank you. Come on up. Good morning.
Good morning. Allie Conine. I'm the Director of Member Services and Corporate Communications for Wheatland. I just want to share a little bit about how we've been proactively educating our members. The first being direct mail notices. So members received a postcard regarding large loads. We also had a bill insert that was distributed system-wide. The messaging focused on Wheatland's obligation to serve, why large loads are being pursued, in addition to how these projects can benefit members when structured correctly, as well as our commitment to transparency and responsible decision-making. Members also have access to a website that is devoted to large load education on Wheatland's website. The website addresses frequently asked questions, large load economics, reliability, cost responsibility as far, and also our obligations, and then also why we simply cannot refuse service. We also have a new educational initiative. It's the Affordability Campaign. It featured in the July issue of the Kansas Country Living magazine. It's Behind the Cost of Power. So Bruce, in partnership with Steve Epperson, Sunflower CEO, you'll see articles featured in the Kansas Country Living that addresses electric rates, inflation affecting the utility industry, transmission investments, generation costs. But we have been proactively educating our members. We also had Jim McVeigh. He did a presentation at the annual meeting this year as well. So, any questions?
One question, if people have questions for Wheatland, would you be the person to reach out to?
Yes.
All right,
Yep, and if I can't answer the question, I will find the person who can.
okay. And is your contact information readily available, say, on your website then?
Yes, it is.
Okay, all right, thank you, Ellen.
Perfect, thank you.
Well, in closing, I'm going to be the MC of any questions to direct them to the people who, or deflect them to the people who can answer them best. Is there anything we can do to help you?
Actually, I do have a couple of questions for Corey. Who would be the contact person at Sunflower?
Probably Nikki would be the primary. Nikki, would you be the?
Okay, so if anybody from the public, if anybody from the public has questions about today's presentation or anything regarding these large loads, then they could reach out to Nikki, and that.
We'll direct them to the right
your
person at
contact
Sunflower.
information is available on your website as well, or? I'll be sure to leave it with you all. Okay, perfect, then we'll have that information that we can share if anybody has questions with that. One other question I have for you, Corey, is regarding the Holcomb-Sydney line.
Yes,
That is unrelated to these projects, as that's my understanding. Is that correct?
yeah, that came from the annual SPP planning study that I mentioned. And the purpose for that was really to provide more transfer of electricity from the north to the south, really in response to what we saw during Winter Storm Uri. During Winter Storm Uri, there was a lot of generation that was out in the south because it wasn't designed for the cold weather. Generation in the north is winterized, basically. So to provide that transfer of energy from the north to the south in those types of conditions, that's why that line was identified as an upgrade requirement.
So that was necessary without the possibility of any large loads.
Correct.
And that line will affect the rates for consumers across the board?
Yeah, so that's a high voltage line. So per SPP's cost allocation methodology, the cost for that will be distributed amongst everybody in the SPP footprint. One of the nice things about that project for us is because it's in our footprint, we're the host transmission owner, we get to build it. And when we build it, we get reimbursed for the cost plus a rate of return on top of that. So we'll actually earn a little bit of revenue for building and maintaining that line with the rate of return that we have built in.
Okay, very good. I just wanted to make sure that folks know that we are anticipating a rise in electrical costs unrelated to these projects. And it's my understanding from everybody today that we do not anticipate that these projects will increase costs to the other consumers within Finney County, at least.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of pressures that are going to drive rates up regardless of what happens with large loads.
Right.
We think that the large loads will actually help us offset some of those costs. And we're doing our best to ensure that all the costs that they trigger are going to be paid for by them, and then we'll earn that additional margin through the adder that we have.
Perfect.
And just to emphasize too, we're a co-op, Wheatland's a co-op, we're not for profit, so whatever additional margin that we earn above our cost just goes to keep our electric rates down for our members. So we're not earning money from this, we're making money to keep everybody else's rates low, so that's all allocated to our members.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Any other questions? All right, thanks for being here today. We appreciate it. We obviously don't have the time or the means to have let people in the audience visit today, but we will make sure that we get the contact information out there, that if they want to reach out to you, that they certainly can. With that being said, we do have 3 people who would like to speak with us during public comment, so I'm going to go ahead and open public comment. We'll start with Nathaniel. I don't know him as Nathaniel, but.
Yeah, legally it's Nathaniel, but we'll go with Nathan. Thank you, commissioners, for allowing me to be here and to speak. I know it's a tremendous job that you guys have, that you guys carry. I know a lot of you personally and the issues that you are facing and dealing with in the community, and so I appreciate your service. I want to start by saying that, and I will pray for rain, so just know that that's going to come as well. Thank you. And we'll definitely bring that. But today I put on a different hat as the chairman of the FCCA, the Finney County Committee on Aging. And I understand there's a consideration of some funding cuts for that organization, and so I wanted just to speak to that very briefly and just tell you the impact that will make on a lot of different aspects of this community. And so as a citizen of Finney County, I believe reducing the funding for the Finney County Committee on Aging would be harmful not only to our senior citizens, but to the health and stability of our entire community. The Finney County Committee on Aging is not simply another outside agency asking for discretionary funding. Through the Finney County Senior Center and Finney County Transit, FCCA provides essential services that allow older residents to remain active, independent, and connected and safe. And that includes the Meals on Wheels and the transit that keeps everybody moving. We've recently been informed that the Kansas Department of Transportation has reduced our funding by 17% of the budget, which was a pretty substantial thing. We're trying to do our best to watch every dime that is in our care, but we are still considered a for-profit agency, and so even with that, we have to pay taxes and all that stuff on any purchases. So with that, we still have loss of 17% for this next year, and that's a very big hit to where we're at and what we're trying to do. So we're tightening our belts in many different ways, but we also still want to keep everybody moving and everybody serviced, and so that's part of what we're doing. And so it is a substantial loss for us, and we're doing everything we can to make that adjustment and requesting additional funding for the following years. But right now, any additional funding cuts from the Finney County, from you guys, would certainly compound that damage and threaten the long-term sustainability of all the services that the Finney County Senior Center provides to this community. I understand there are some other counties that are actually having to shut down senior centers because of things happening, and I don't want to see that happen here. And so that's why I'm up here speaking today. The Finney County Transit Services serves people with disabilities and the general public. Its services include fixed routes, advanced Schedule 88 paratransit, and demand response transportation. So if you didn't know about that, we invite you to a conversation about that. They go well beyond my 5 minutes here today. But for many senior citizens, transportation is not a convenience. It's something that they need to be able to feel independent and survive and get around. It is access to health care for many of them. Our busiest days are transporting people to dialysis and things like that. groceries, pharmacies, social services, and the rest of the community and the commitments that they have there. And so this is something that would take away, if we were having to cut these services, it would definitely take away independence for a lot of different people in our community, and we don't want to see that happen. If anything, I've been pushing for the last few years to expand that to weekends as well and add other services, but right now we're just not able to do that. And so we would hate to see families that would have to miss work to transport relatives, take away from their responsibilities as they're dealing with those that are would be affected by any cuts here. The senior center is equally important, as it does provide a place for them to come together. We are currently in a process of trying to renovate and make it look even better. Commissioner Schultz there knows our heart desire to see great things happen there and renovation happen, but that all takes funding, as you can imagine, and so we're working on planning with that as well. But we don't want seniors to face isolation, and that's why we want to provide a place where they can truly get together, gather fellowship, and continue to grow and have a place for their mental health as well. And so we hope that great things continue to happen with the senior center. We should also recognize that FCCA's services work together. Everything is kind of in cooperation with each other. The senior center cannot fully serve people who have no way to reach it. The transit frequently connects residents to nutrition sites, the medical care, the shopping, and even recreational opportunities. All these programs are part of the same support system. So once the system is weakened, rebuilding it will be far more difficult and more expensive than maintaining it. So the Finney County has supported the Committee on Aging, and we've been very appreciative of that support for decades. And I'm here to say, please don't cut that. It would make a huge difference and a huge heartache to us to be able to do those things, and a huge challenge for us to serve all the seniors in Finney County. So I thank you for your time, and I appreciate your hard work and your service and all that you've got and all that you guys are doing. Have a great day.
Thank you, Pastor. Appreciate your volunteering on that board. I know it does take a lot of your time, but appreciate your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Next, we have Shelley. Is it Stroop or Stroup? Come on up.
I'm here.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Shelley Stroop, and I'm here to talk about representing some seniors in Finney County
Okay.
regarding mill levy. And
Be sure and speak into the microphone for us, and you can move that over a little if you need to.
okay. I've been in Finney County long enough to remember when most of the retirees could count on staying in their homes where they've lived and paid off. Today, that's becoming harder and harder. We talk about the increase in mill levy or raising property taxes. We have to remember many of our seniors aren't getting raises to keep up with those increases. Most seniors live on fixed incomes. Whether it's Social Security, pension, retirement, their monthly income often stays relatively flat, while the cost of groceries, utilities, insurance, prescriptions, health care, and all continue to rise. A higher property tax may not seem like much on paper, but for someone living on a fixed budget, another few $100s a year can mean cutting back on necessities. Many of the seniors are house rich but cash poor, meaning their home's value have increased significantly over the years, but that doesn't mean they have more money in their checking accounts. Their property taxes are based on the value of the home and the mill levy, not the homeowner's ability to pay. The mill levy increase is permanent until changed. Unlike a one-time expense, an increased mill levy becomes part of the future tax bill and can continue growing if property values also increase. Seniors have already paid into the community for decades. Many have supported schools, roads, law enforcement, parks, county services through taxes for 30, 40, 50 years. While most understand that public services must be funded, they also hope local government will look carefully for efficiencies before asking taxpayers, especially retirees, for more. The higher taxes can force difficult choices. Some seniors may delay home maintenance, postpone medical care, or even consider selling their family home simply because annual property taxes are becoming unaffordable. Property taxes don't reflect your income. Someone earning $35,000 a year may pay the same property tax as someone earning $150,000 if they own a similar home. That can disappropriately affect retirees living on limited income. Finney County owns information. Finney County's own information explains that the amount of property tax paid depends not only on the appraisal value of property, but also on the budgets adopted by local taxing entities and the mill levy established each year. One mill levy equals $1 of tax for every 1,000 of excess value. That doesn't mean the county shouldn't invest in roads, public safety, emergency medical services, or other essential services. Those are all important. The question many long-term residents ask is whether every reasonable effort has been made to reduce unnecessary spending, improve efficiency, seek grants or outside funding, prioritize existing resources, and delay non-essential projects before increasing the tax burden. Ultimately, many long-time Finney County residents would say this isn't about opposing every tax increase. It's about recognizing that retired homeowners often have the least flexibility to absorb the higher costs. Before increasing the mill levy, county leaders should carefully demonstrate that the increase is truly necessary, that alternatives have been exhausted, and that the long-term impact on seniors living on fixed incomes has been fully considered. That's not just a good fiscal policy, it's a way of honoring the people who have spent a lifetime contributing to the community. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Shelley. I appreciate you having the courage to get up and speak to us. And I know it's hard. And thank you for speaking for those who definitely are going to be the most challenged if taxes do go up. I would like to ask, would you email your comments to Dory and you can get her information so that she could share that with us as commissioners? I'd like to have a physical record of that.
Okay.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Zach Wharf. Good morning. I know I said your name, but if you could repeat it for us.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. My name is Zach Wharf. I'm your friendly neighborhood pain in the ass. I now know more about data centers than I've ever wanted to. I've gone from, yeah, I know what a data center is, to how much time do you have? Pull up a chair. This is not my field of study. It's not what I entered in for work. It's not great that is, sorry, my own notes are terrible. I want to start my speech today by saying, County Commissioners, I've read your emails. Some of you make it blatantly obvious you do not like your constituents. Your responses are not kind. Jerry, even if we ignore the you're not going to respond to foreigners comment, every response to somebody that sent you an email about a data center was ugh, same, and you forward them all to Derek. You don't respond to them, generally speaking. I paid $700 for these emails. You don't provide them easily for people to get a hold of. I had to crowdfund that money, and then you didn't even give me the complete set of them. I don't have my attachments still to this day, and to this day I still haven't heard from the city on getting my emails, which obviously that's not you guys, but still annoying. Jerry, you're a lawyer. You have the ability to compose a response to your foreigner comment to explain to everybody what you meant if you didn't mean it the way it sounded. but you left it to the triple local liaison, the guy that's paid by the energy people coming to town to defend you for yourself. Just, it's a terrible look. But that doesn't change the dozens of responses, dozens of them, that you did not like. I guess you guys don't know what a change.org petition is. It's so that not everybody who has the ability to form a letter or come up and speak to you guys or show up on Monday morning at 8:30 to speak to you guys, so they can actually have a voice too, and just send it, and so that we can all unify our voice together and send it together. So you don't have to read 1,000 emails that are personally composed to you, but you can chalk this tally here, tally here, tally here. But I'm willing to bet that none of you can tell me how many emails you've gotten in negative and how many emails you've gotten in positive. Vicki, you said at a meeting that you've received dozens of positive comments about it. Not one of them are in your emails.
No, not, most people don't email, they speak.
I'm just saying, if that's true, there's no way to verify that. And so I don't believe it to be true. I don't think you're getting a lot of positive comments from community members, because I am getting literally every day 3 to 5 people messaging me that want to remain anonymous to give me some piece of information that they want me to make sure I have. Most of the time I've seen it already, but I get lots of people reaching out to me that are concerned. And I just don't feel the same concern from the people who are going to be making the decision. Mind you, the people making the decision would be lucky to be here in the 20 years when this decision is completed. Most of you guys won't see the end of this. Speaking of people that are up in age, Larry, you need to quit using your personal email for county business. You need a county email. I shouldn't have to go through all your spam emails in order to read about it. It's unacceptable. You guys get emails from politicians in Virginia talking about how to sell this data center to all of us. In that email, Vicki, you forwarded it on and said, "Get Finney County ready for the second industrial revolution." That's a quote.
Did?
You did. It sounds like you know it's coming, and this isn't a decision that's being made. It's a decision that has already been made, and we're just going through formalities at this point. If that's not true, it doesn't feel like it based on your private conversations that are not actually private in the emails. I will be pulling more emails. I will be getting more. I want to find out who's building the data center. I think you guys know who it is. I don't think you're willing to share that information yet, because I don't think they want you to know, want us to know rather. If this is a good thing and it's not going to have negative effects on our community, our environment, and our way of life.
Zach, you're at the 5 minutes. Can you go ahead and summarize?
Really?
All right, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we'll close the public comment portion, and we don't have any old business today. On new business, I'm told that we're going to remove item 6A from the agenda.
That is correct. We'll table it for the next meeting.
All right, very good. So item 6B, audio-video upgrades for the courtrooms 200 and 300. Thank you.
I know, I was like, so, man, okay. Didn't know I was unpopular, sorry.
Not interested in the courtroom.
I know, yeah, it's not. Okay. Madam Chair, Commissioners, Meneses Navarro, Court Administrator.
Good morning.
Good morning. Today, I'm asking the Board of County Commissioners to consider and approve funding for audio and video upgrades in courtrooms 200 and 300 at the Finney County Courthouse utilizing Office of Judicial Administration, OJA, grant funding. A bit of background. On February 12, 2026, the Finney County District Court was notified by the Office of Judicial Administration of a grant opportunity to reimburse courts for courtroom audio equipment upgrades. The original grant program was limited to microphones, mixers, and associated installation costs. However, OJ later expanded the program to include additional courtroom technology such as cameras, speakers, and other audio and video equipment. To identify a qualified vendor with courtroom audio and video integration experience, district court staff solicited quotes from 3 firms with expertise in courtroom technology: Syntec, McClellan Inc., and Hobbs Sound, LLC. Syntec did not submit a proposal. Both McClellan Inc. and Hobbs Sound provided written quotations for the requested improvements. McClellan submitted a comprehensive proposal for the modernization of courtrooms 200 and 300, totaling in the amount of $77,825, while Hobbs Sound submitted a proposal for courtroom 300's audio and video equipment totaling $52,325.90. Due to the value of the provided quote for courtroom 300, district staff did not request a quote for courtroom 200. After reviewing the proposals, district staff determined that McClellan's proposal best met the project requirements by providing a complete integrated solution for both courtrooms, including upgraded microphones, audio processing, speakers, cameras, courtroom control systems, installation, programming, training, and warranty support. District staff submitted a grant application requesting $214,553.50 to modernize all 6 courtrooms within the Finney County Courthouse. On May 21st, 2026, OJA notified the district court that Finney County had been awarded $77,825, which fully funds the upgrades for courtrooms 200 and 300. These courtrooms were prioritized because they contain the county's oldest courtroom audio and visual systems. Under the terms of the grant, the county must initially fund the project. Upon completion of installation and submission of the required documentation, the county will be reimbursed in full by the Office of Judicial Administration. Following grant and project coordination, district staff has continued working with McClellan to set up a timeline for installation. McClellan has advised that the manufacturer of the audio and video components has not yet provided a confirmed shipping date for the equipment. Until that information is received, the contractor is unable to establish a firm installation schedule. Once the equipment delivery date is confirmed, the installation timeline will be coordinated around courtroom availability. Installation is expected to require approximately 4 days per courtroom to complete, making courtroom scheduling a key factor in determining the overall project timeline. The alternatives before you: Alternative 1, the Board of County Commissioners may approve funding for the audio and video upgrades for courtrooms 200 and 300 in the amount of $77,825, allowing the project to proceed and the county to seek full reimbursement through the OJA grant. Alternative 2, the Board of County Commissioners may deny funding for the project and provide district court staff with further direction. Denial would result in the county not utilizing the awarded grant funding for these courtroom improvements. Recommendation of district court staff: we recommend alternative 1, the Board of County Commissioners approves funding for the audio and video upgrades for courtrooms 200 and 300 in the amount of $77,825 and authorize the project to proceed with McClellan Inc., with the understanding that Finney County will be reimbursed in full through the Office of Judicial Administration grant upon project completion. Fiscal policy impact: the total cost of the project is $77,825. Although the county will initially fund the project, the expense will be 100% reimbursed through the Office of Judicial Administration Audio and Video Grant Program upon completion of the project and fulfillment of grant requirements. Therefore, no long-term fiscal impact is anticipated to the county budget. I'm available for questions.
Thank you, Meneses. Any questions or comments?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
courtroom 300 is the large courtroom in the courthouse, correct?
No, it's not the main jury courtroom. That would be 301. 300 is our primarily used for like our JV docket. It would,
The old Hutch courtroom?
yes, it'd be the Hutchinson courtroom. Yes.
And what's the courtroom on 200?
200 would be the one right below it. So I cannot remember the name of the courtroom off the top of my head, but it's literally the same courtroom just on the second floor, on that
It's
south
gonna
side.
take to get upgraded equipment in the main courtroom where we do most of our civil trials.
I believe that because that was modernized, I think part of that courtroom was modernized as part of the COVID Spark funding, I think many years ago. I believe that one would only take, I'd have to look at the exact one. I think it was less than $10,000, but I don't want to. I can,
Is there a timeline when this grant award from OJA expires?
no, when I spoke with my grant contact, she said that once the grant funding is approved and we've submitted the initial work order, that the funds are encumbered by the state until they're until they're needed.
That's the administrator's favorite word, encumbered. That's all I have, thank you.
Okay. Any others? Would anyone like to offer a motion?
Move that we approve alternative number 1, approve the funding, and seek reimbursement upon completion from the OJA grant.
Second.
There is a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries. Thanks, Menace.
Thank you.
Item 6C, Finney County Health Department.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
The Board of County Commissioners is asked to consider and adopt Resolution Number 26, 2026, naming the joint Finney County Health Department and EMS facility located at 2515 North 8th Street in Garden City, Kansas, the Finney County Health Department and Robert D. Bob Pruitt EMS facility. Finney County is recently completing a joint facility for the Finney County Health Department and Finney County Emergency Medical Services at 25115 North 8th Street in Garden City. The facility provides dedicated space for both departments and represents a significant investment in the county's public health and emergency medical services. Robert D. Bob Pruitt has dedicated more than 50 years to emergency medical services through direct service, leadership, and education. His work helped shape the development of EMS in Kansas and establish training and certification opportunities that have served Finney County in western Kansas for generations. Bob's EMS career began in Winfield, Kansas, where he assumed leadership of the ambulance service in July of 1970. At that time, the service consisted of Bob, 1 first aid instructor, and 4 part-time college students serving as ambulance drivers. Recognizing the need for additional training, Bob worked to establish a more structured training program for ambulance personnel. Between 1974 and 1975, Bob was one of approximately 35 individuals selected to receive advanced trauma training from the University of Kansas Medical Center trauma physician. He also received EMT education through Wichita State University and became a state of Kansas certified EMS instructor. Bob taught one of the early EMT courses at Southwestern College and later helped train groups of 25 to 30 new EMS instructors every 6 to 8 months. Those instructors were responsible for expanding EMT education and certification opportunities throughout Kansas. Bob also completed paramedic training with Marlon Crowley before moving to Garden City. After arriving in Finney County, Bob worked with the Garden City Community College to establish EMS education and certification programs for EMTs and paramedics. His efforts helped build a local and regional training pathway for EMS personnel and provided Western Kansas communities greater access to trained emergency medical professionals. In addition to his work in Finney County, Bob served on a Kansas legislative committee focused on strengthening EMS programs and improving emergency medical services in rural communities. His experience as an EMS provider and instructor gave rural Kansas a voice as the state continued developing its EMS systems. Bob's impact on Finney County cannot be measured only by the number of years he served. His legacy is reflected in the EMTs, paramedics, and instructors he trained, the EMS education programs he helped establish, and the emergency medical services available to our community today. His commitment to training others created a lasting impact that continues through generations of EMS professionals. Naming the facility the Finney County Health Department and Robert D. Bob Pruitt EMS facility maintains the identity of the Finney County Health Department while recognizing Bob's more than 50 years of service and his lasting impact on emergency medical services in Finney County, western Kansas, and across the entire state of Kansas. So there are 3 alternatives for the governing body to choose from. 1, the Board of County Commissioners may approve Resolution Number 26-2026, naming the joint Finney County Health Department EMS facility the Finney County Health Department and Robert D. Bob Pruitt EMS facility. 2, the Board of County Commissioners may deny Resolution Number 26-2026, naming the joint Finney County Health Department and EMS facility the Finney County Health Department and Robert D. Bob Pruitt EMS facility. And 3, the Board of County Commissioners may give staff further direction. It is staff's recommendation that the Board of County Commissioners approve Resolution Number 26, 2026, naming the joint Finney County Health Department and EMS facility the Finney County Health Department and Robert D. Bob Pruitt EMS facility. There is no fiscal impact associated with this proposed dedication of the facility, and I'm happy to answer any questions the governing body may have.
Thank you, Derek. I can't think of a more appropriate name. Any comments or questions?
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion. It is a privilege for me to make this motion, as I've known Bob for many years since I've been here, and have seen him grow quite a bit with the EMS, and now he's retired and still commits to this community. So with that, I make the motion that we approve resolution number 26-2026, naming the joint Finney County Health Department and EMS facility of the Finney County Health Department and Robert D. Bob Pruitt EMS facility.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Do we have any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries unanimously. Bob, do you have any comments for us this morning? Come on up.
I'm pretty humbled. It's been a long time since I stood here, but I recognize a lot of you, and I don't know how to say thank you. Without your support, this could never happen. And starting in about 1976, we worked pretty hard together, and I know several of you guys have been around that long, and several of you guys I've worked with. And I think it's not a singular deal, it's a county deal. And I'm proud to be a part of that. And I appreciate this more than you know. So.
Bob, we're so thankful for you. I worked for Fry Eye Associates for many years.
Oh, yeah.
And back when we were sort of co-located, you know, in the hospital there, where you guys were like literally down our hallway. And I just remember you as always being not only so dedicated to your profession, but you were also dedicated to teaching others and working with others and passing along what you had learned, and that's so valuable, and I'm really thankful to you for that.
I think the thing that I'm happiest about, if anything, is that we had a huge impact on the 19 counties in southwest Kansas. And those people have come back around for years and recognize the fact that this group caused that to happen. And I'm proud of that.
Yes,
And I thank you very much for recognizing that.
absolutely. Well deserved.
Thank you.
Would you like a picture today?
Yes. And just to note, for the Board of County Commissioners, there will be a ribbon cutting and naming ceremony at the facility when we open, and we're eyeing sometime probably early September.
Okay, thank you. All right. Oh, I guess we have commissioners who would like a short break, so let's reconvene at 10 a.m. Item 6D, revenue neutral rate notification.
So the Board of County Commissioners is asked to consider and approve the certification of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate to the Finney County Clerk at a rate of 49.678 mils. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and budget hearing for September 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county website. So Kansas counties are required annually to prepare an itemized operating budget by KSA 79-2925. The Finney County Fiscal Committee began preparation of the 2027 Finney County operating budget in April of 2026. The Fiscal Committee met with outside agencies, department directors, and elected officials to discuss each appropriation request and understand the needs of each agency or department. Work sessions were held on July 6th and July 13th of 2026 for the purpose of the Board of County Commissioners providing strategic directions to the Fiscal Committee in preparation of the 2027 operating budget. KSA 79-2988 requires the county clerk to calculate and provide the revenue neutral rate to taxing subdivisions. The revenue neutral rate is the tax rate for the current year that would generate the same property tax revenue as levied in the previous tax year using the current tax year's total assessed valuation. The revenue neutral rate for 2027 budget is 47.02 mils. Statute further requires that the governing body notify the county clerk should it intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate and provide the date, time, and location of the public hearing and its proposed rate. Once notification is made to the county clerk, the mill rate of the proposed budget may be reduced, but it will not be increased. So there are three alternatives for the governing body to choose from. Alternative number one, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Finney County's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate at 47.02 mils with a proposed rate of 49.678 mils. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. 2, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of the Finney County's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 47.02 with a different proposed rate. Schedule the revenue neutral hearing, or the revenue neutral rate hearing and the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. And 3, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Finney County's intent to not exceed the revenue neutral rate of 47.02. Schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. It is the Fiscal Committee's recommendation to approve alternative number 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Finney County's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 47.02 mils with a proposed rate of 49.678 mils. Schedule a revenue neutral rate hearing and budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. The fiscal or policy impact on this is the 2027 Finney County operating budget was prepared with the strategic direction of the Board of County Commissioners and achieves some of the goals of the board while promoting sound operations and fiscal responsibility. Finney County remains committed to providing superior service while minimizing the impact of property taxes on Finney County taxpayers. While this balance is difficult to achieve due to increased regulatory requirements and increased costs, Finney County will continue to strive to provide excellent value to Finney County residents. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Derek? Do we have comments from the commissioners?
I think emphasis needs to be placed on lowering if we can't raise above this rate.
And what are you proposing?
I'm not proposing anything.
Okay.
I think he's just suggesting that after we approve this, that we,
Reminding the voters that this is not the published rate. This is just ceiling.
Yep, that is correct.
Yep.
We can come down from this ceiling, but we cannot exceed it.
I think the ceiling ought to be set at the present mill levy of 47.459 mils, which was the rate in 2026. This is not the year for a rate increase in the ad valorem tax rate. That's a personal opinion.
What year would be a good one?
I was sheriff
I
for
don't think
25 years.
that's
There was
gonna-
never a
I don't
good year
think
for
there's
it.
ever
but-
going to be a good year for it, but what,
Yeah.
to what perspective?
Well, the 47.459 mills exceeds the net revenue rate of 47.02. It's what we had last year. We ought to live with it.
I would like to make a motion that we approve alternative one, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County clerk of Finney County's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 47.02 mils with a proposed rate of 49.678 mils. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8, 2026 at 9 a.m. and authorize the Finney County clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website.
Second.
We do have a motion, a second. Just a couple of comments from the chair. I would like for our constituents to understand that this does not mean that we're doing this today and we're raising your taxes today. We have to set a ceiling because the state tells us that by 5 p.m. today, we have to publish our revenue neutral rate, even though we have not completed the budget process yet and won't have that completed for likely, what is it, another month?
To the budget hearing into September 8th.
September 8th, a month and a half. So, in my opinion, if we don't set it high, we could be hamstringing ourselves if we are not able to make some significant cuts. I think that it's understood that we're probably going to have to make some cuts. Don't know what those are going to be. I don't know where we'll end up ultimately, but I do think that we need to err on the side of caution today. So that's my thoughts. Anybody have anything else?
Not often do I disagree with my seatmate here, but I hate to hamstring us by setting a lower rate that we can't raise, and so I'm gonna vote for the motion.
I'll still be voting no, and I think I've made it clear as to why. And that in the fiscal committee's work, we still have plenty of unoccupied positions to cut from. We have reserves from which to draw from, all of which would result in a not to exceed the net revenue neutral rate of last year's mill levy of 47.459 mils.
And it is still a possibility to achieve that mark if we work hard.
I understand, and the creation of this R&R notice means that the taxpayers are going to get a notice of an intent to raise their taxes. And that decision has not been made. By voting to raise taxes and send notice to the taxpayers, we're sending mixed or conflicting messages. I think the voicing would be simpler and easier to hold the line on the mill levy rate now. It exceeds the net revenue rate as calculated by the clerk of 47.02. It provides us the opportunity to hold the line on taxes, and we'll be going back to the taxpayers with a renewal of a 1/4-cent sales tax in November. I think that the expectation of the community of persons that I've talked to expect us to hold the line on the ad valorem tax rate, and for those reasons, I'll be voting no.
So even if we stick to last year's, we'll be exceeding the revenue neutral rate.
And that's by design, because our community's growing.
And that's how the state hamstrings us, in my opinion.
That's exactly why we should eliminate revenue neutral law.
Exactly.
It is antiquated and does nothing to improve communications with the taxpayers. I expressed this several times with our state legislators and wish they would heed our advice.
Yes, I do too. But, I suppose that is a battle for another day. I would like to say, however, that I want to instruct not only our staff, but members of the community. Help us. Suggest things. What do you think we need to cut? What do you think we need to do to help keep your taxes down. Believe me, we all want to do that. So I've gotten suggestions from taxpayers. I have requested that they keep those things coming because they're the people that we want to hear from. They are the reason that we're here, and we do want to know if there are things that you think could be cut from the budget. It's just like Commissioner Bascu always says, what do you want to see cut? So we do need to hear those things, and I think every single one of us up here is open to that, and we do want to hear from our constituents.
Well, earlier today, we heard a plea from the senior center to not cut their services, and I'm sure that the library, the museum, CASA, law enforcement, I'm sure that all of those agencies don't want us to cut their services, but that's exactly what would be necessary or required for us to lower the mill levy or reduce somebody's property tax. And of course, we're just 1/4 of the piece of the pie where your property taxes go towards. So what is it that we would like to do without the plea that we heard today about senior center? Well, that possibly could be a area of cutting the library. You know, those agencies that I mentioned earlier, maybe not as often do we go out and work the roads and, you know, those kind of things. Maybe the treasurer's office, you know, they have smaller staff, and so your lines that you stand in to get your tags and everything might be longer. These are all of the services that your property taxes pay for. And so what is it of those that we want to do less with, you know? And so those are the things that we have to consider, or that folks should consider when we are working on our budget and everything. I personally would like to be able to get a rate to where we were last year, and that's something that we work on, but I'm quite certain that it'll require us to cut some things, you know, that we have been accustomed to enjoying as, you know, living in this community. So.
Very good. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Nay.
Very good. That motion passes. Thanks, everyone, for your comments, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us.
Thank you.
Item 6E, East Side Sewer District, 2027 budget hearing.
Good morning, Chair and
Good
Commissioners.
morning.
Trista Joyce, County Treasurer. So the Board of County Commissioners is asked to schedule the East Side Sewer District budget hearing for September 8th, 2026 at 9:10 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. KSA 79-2925 requires all taxing subdivisions in the state of Kansas to prepare an annual operating budget and hold a hearing to allow input from taxpayers. The proposed operating budget levies tax at 2.437 mils, which is the same as the revenue neutral rate. The alternatives before you are authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of the East Side Sewer District's intent not to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 2.437 mils, schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:10 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. Or 2, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of East Side Sewer District's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 2.437 mils with a higher proposed rate, schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:10 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. The recommendation is that staff recommends alternative 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of the East Side Sewer District's intent not to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 2.437 mils, schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:10 a.m., and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, does someone have a motion?
I move we publish the mill rate at 2.437 as recommended for East Side Sewer District number,
Very good.
Number 1.
Second?
Second.
whichever one we want.
And that was alternative one, correct?
One.
Okay. We do have a motion, a second. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. Thank you, Trista. And the next item?
The Board of County Commissioners is asked to schedule the Sewer District Number 2 budget hearing for September 8th, 2026 at 9:15 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. KSA 79-2925 requires all taxing subdivisions of the state of Kansas to prepare an annual operating budget and hold a hearing to allow input from taxpayers. The proposed operating budget levies tax at 3.117 mils, which is the same as the revenue neutral rate. The alternatives before you are: Number 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 2's intent not to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 3.117 mils. Schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:15 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. Or alternative 2, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 2's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 3.117 mils with a higher proposed rate. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:15 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. Staff recommends alternative 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk and Sewer District Number 2's intent not to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 3.117 mils. Schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:15 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website.
Motion?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative number 1.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. And next.
Okay. The Board of County Commissioners is asked to schedule the Sewer District Number 3 budget hearing for September 8th, 2026 at 9:20 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. KSA 79-2925 requires all taxing subdivisions in the state of Kansas to prepare an annual operating budget and hold a hearing to allow input from taxpayers. The proposed operating budget levies tax at 4.949 mils, which is the same as the revenue neutral rate. Alternatives before you are: 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 3's intent not to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 4.949 mils. Schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:20 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. Or alternative 2, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 3's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 4.949 mils with a higher proposed rate. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:20 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. Staff recommends alternative 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 3's intent not to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 4.949 mils. Schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:20 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website.
Very good. Do we have a motion on this one?
I'll move that we approve alternative number 1.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries.
Okay.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, I have one more. The Board of County Commissioners is asked to consider and approve the certification of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate to the Finney County Clerk at a rate of 0.778 mils. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and budget hearing for September 8th, 2026 at 9:25 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website for Sewer District Number 4. Sewer District Number 4 was established in September of 2025. Operational expenses for this district are currently paid from the Road and Bridge Fund. KSA 79-2988 requires the county clerk to calculate and provide the revenue neutral rate to taxing subdivisions. The revenue neutral rate is the tax rate for the current year that would generate the same property tax revenue as levied in the previous tax year using the current tax year's total assessed valuation. The revenue neutral rate for the 2027 budget is 0 mills because this district has not yet levied any taxes. Statute further requires that the governing body notify the county clerk should it intend to exceed the revenue neutral rate and provide the date, time, and location of the public hearing and its proposed rate. Once notification is made to the county clerk, the mill rate of the proposed budget may be reduced but not increased. The alternatives before you are, number 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 4's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 0 mills with a proposed rate of .778 mills. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:25 a.m. And authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. 2, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 4's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 0 mills with a different proposed rate. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:25 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. Or number 3, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 4's intent not to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 0 mills. Schedule the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget in the official county newspaper and on the county's website. Staff recommends alternative 1, authorize the county administrator to notify the Finney County Clerk of Sewer District Number 4's intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate of 0 mills with a proposed rate of 0.778 mills. Schedule the revenue neutral rate hearing and the budget hearing to be held on Tuesday, September 8th, 2026 at 9:25 a.m. and authorize the Finney County Clerk to publish the budget summary in the official county newspaper and on the county's website.
And can you tell us why that is increased?
Because it has never levied before.
It's new.
Yes.
Just so everybody understands.
Yes,
that, so.
the Road and Bridge Fund has been bearing those costs currently.
Very good, thank you. Do we have a motion?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Derek, this new district, this presentation describes how its previous source of funds was road and bridge, which is a direct ad valorem tax on everybody in the county. What are the operational costs in 2027 that are going to be covered by this new levy of .778 mills? And is it adequate to cover what road and bridge was covering before?
It is adequate, and it'll pay for the services that are currently being taken out of road and bridge, but the where's the number?
.778.
.778 mills is what we calculated to meet that need.
Thank you.
Very good. Do we have a motion?
I would so move that we approve alternative number 1.
Second.
We have a motion, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Finney County Economic Development Update.
Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, the document coming around to you all now is the Fruth Plan. Larry might be the only one who remembers that we did a Fruth Plan once upon a time, not because he was already serving on the commission, but because we've done one revisit to this already. But I think with all of the conversations going on around taxation and growth in our community, I felt like it was important to revisit some of this that many of us have forgotten, if you will. So first I should acknowledge that I'm Lana Duvall, President and CEO of Finney County Economic Development. So because not everybody has a copy of this in front of them, I would ask you to turn just to the inside of that cover page, and you'll see that there is a letter there from William Fruth, dated April 20th, 2005. And again, since not everybody has it, I think it's important that we know what the community was looking like at the time that we contracted to have this study completed for us. So to the Finney County community, over the last 30 years, virtually every rural county in the United States not located on the interstate highway system has suffered economic decline. The rate of decline was typically very gradual. A small manufacturer would close one year, a year or two later, another. Some people would move away, a retail store would close, and on and on. Like erosion of soil, it was not recognized by community leaders until the economic problems became acute, when nothing would grow. After World War II, virtually every county in the United States grew economically. There was no memory or history of decline. As a result, community leaders in these areas either did not recognize the problem, or if they did, failed to take any action, as they likely assumed it would simply restore itself. In Kansas, there are 94 counties with a population smaller than Finney County. Among these, 71 of them have fewer people living there today than in 1982. Over the last 20 years, Finney County grew economically and in population. The year area from 1980 to 2000 added more than 3,500 manufacturing jobs. Additionally, the agricultural industry grew both in crop and livestock production. However, as you are aware, the county lost about 2,500 manufacturing jobs in 2000, and the negative effects are being felt. I have studied hundreds of economies in the United States. The long-term prognosis for your area is not good. There is every indication Finney County will now join the rest of the rural counties by falling into economic decline. This simply means there will be less money available for everything. Property values will likely decline, and more people will have to move away. This is the likely scenario unless the community decides to stop it from happening. Your area is at a crossroads. You stand in time where most other rural counties stood 20 years ago. The advantage you have is you know from their experiences what happens if a community does nothing about it. The difference many times between a strong economy and one which is faltering is community leadership. During my last visit to your area, I toured the Garden City Community College. During the tour, it was pointed out to me the school was the first community college in Kansas. The first. Can you imagine the controversy within your community which surrounded the election in 1919 when Finney County residents voted to tax themselves for this progressive idea? I suspect there was more than one person who was against it. For a community your size to have such foresight and leadership to cause the first community college to be built in Kansas is admirable. In the economic development plan I have created for your area, I have identified a series of tasks and programs which need to be implemented to prevent future decline and to cause economic growth. I am sure you will find some of the ideas better than others. But the question before you now is simple. Do the residents of Finney County have the will and leadership to fight to preserve your community, or will you simply do nothing and allow it to fade into the night? Having met so many nice people in your area during my visits, I am confident I know which choice you will make. Sincerely, William Fruth. So again, that's from 2005. And if you remember, I think all of you were here then, that was 5 years after having lost the original beef harvest facility that many of us called Monfort at that point. So I think it's really important that we have that understanding of where the community was at that time. We had not fully rebounded. Our population had suffered a decline. Our housing developers had stopped building housing units. Understandably so, right? They were concerned about what those opportunities might look like. So the start of our presentation here, I think, again, just based on timing, it's important to point out that there are limited ways for local government to fund services. And part of why the community was looking to economic development is because the primary way you can do that is to broaden the tax base, right? So you all have property tax, sales tax, and a limited amount of fee income that you can rely on to fund the services that we have all agreed are necessary to have an organized, safe community that's capable of accommodating future growth. In Finney County, somewhere around 90% of our land is valued as agricultural use land. When you broaden that across the state, it's somewhere between 87 and 90% of the land mass in Kansas is valued as agricultural use. Agricultural use is taxed, valued differently than residential or industrial land is valued. So I think it's really important for people to understand that all the conversations we want to have about property tax, we have to acknowledge the fact that the vast majority of our land is classified as agricultural valued. And in Kansas, we passed a constitutional amendment back in 1976 to protect how ag is valued. So we didn't want agricultural producers having giant swings back and forth in the valuation of their land. It is, again, in the Constitution, how it will be valued. So that valuation, instead of being based on market rate, which is the way that homes are taxed, which is the way that industry is valued, that land instead is based on a rolling average, 8 years, throw out top, bottom, of the production of that land. So we have land in Finney County, you're going to see one of those parcels highlighted here, that's getting taxed at 48 cents an acre. You'll see why that matters as we go through this process, but it's really important for the public to understand that is a limiting factor, not only on the Finney County Commission, but on all of the county commissions across the state of Kansas. How we choose to value agriculture makes a difference, and if we're not able to convert some of those acres into a higher job creation and valuation, we would be in the same position as every other rural community across Kansas that hasn't had that industrial growth that we've seen in Finney County. So when we were created, which was after this Fruth Plan was put into place, right? Economic development during this time was being managed by the Chamber of Commerce. It was just an add-on to what they were doing. And the community members said that doesn't seem to be getting us where we need to go fast enough. So that's why this plan was ultimately consulted for, was paid for. I know some of you get a little frustrated with all the studies we do, but this was one of those that the community said, we think it's important enough to get outside expertise to come in, tell us where we really are as a community, what it would take to get us to the next place, and how we should look at doing that. Additionally, how can we make sure it works? And that's where these metrics got established of what are we going to look at to determine is economic development working or not working for our community, so that we could consistently be visiting that and make changes if we needed to. So economic development is the activity which increases the size and improves the quality of a local economy through the formation of new primary industry jobs. Finney County community must initiate and fund an aggressive economic development program to prevent economic decline in the future. If the program is successful, the overall size of the economy will grow and its quality will improve. The community focus groups with whom the researcher interviewed agreed. They were asked, quote, how aggressive should the Finney County community be regarding its economic development program? And in those few focus groups, the answers on a scale from 1 to 5, with 1 meaning, quote, do nothing, and 5 meaning, quote, very aggressive program, the participant response averaged 4.8. In other words, very aggressive program. We're on slide 3 for the tech folks. Thank you. There are 3 basic programs that he outlined in the Fruth Plan: existing industry program, marketing recruitment program, and startup program. You notice that recruitment wasn't included in his plan, and I want to point that out to you. On page 9, there's a quote that he has that says, due to Finney County's geographic location, it is likely a large number of the new jobs which need to be created will be generated from the existing industry program and the startup program. In other words, he had very little faith that we would be able to recruit new industry like many of the communities that are located on interstates and like those who have four-year higher education institutions. Because if you look again across the state of Kansas, most of the communities that have grown, with the exception of Finney County and Pottawatomie County, which Shannon and I would argue does have a four-year university, considering part of Manhattan is in Pottawatomie County. And we would also argue that it is on the interstate, considering it's a 12-mile drive to get over there, right? But if we wanted to be scientific about it, we'll say Pottawatomie County doesn't have a four-year institution or a four-lane highway, right? But other than that, Finney County is the only county that has seen growth that doesn't have the 4x4 rules established, if you will. So I'm going to go through just a few critical junctures just as a reminder of the timeline, and then I'm going to turn it over to Shannon to talk numbers, everyone's favorite part. So 2005, we contracted to have the Fruth Plan done. Many community members, business leaders, elected officials were a part of that study and determining what that plan was going to look like. In 2007, 2008-ish, the taxing jurisdictions opted to separate the economic development functions from the Chamber of Commerce and to employ a dedicated economic development professional. In 2010, I went to work with FCEDC as the Director of Business Retention and Job Growth. In 2011, I assumed the role of the interim presidency, and then in 2012 was solidified as the permanent president CEO of the corporation. TPNL, in 2011, TPNL is recruited to occupy the only 50 acres that Finney County and the city of Garden City ever owned jointly to provide for speculative industrial growth. We were, in 2014, we recruited DFA to advance the regional goal of creating value-added investment into the dairy industry. In 2015-16, the former Monfort property, so 2015-16 means it sat there for 15 years in a state of disrepair with the fence falling down. We all remember what it looked like. And as a constant reminder of a really painful chapter in our history. But in 2015-16, we were able to get that property back into useful production for our community and expanded the TPNL project, added additional rail to go over there. Important to note, in 2016 also, Shannon Dick joined the FCEDC staff to be our dedicated data and strategic analyst. In 2019, Empirical Foods was recruited to further the goal of full integration of the cattle feeding industry. So there's a theme in those projects that we chose to point out for you. Those were all projects that allowed us to take what was originally just agricultural land, have the agricultural production take place, but then really capitalize on that agricultural production. Feed the livestock here, harvest the livestock here, and then make even further value of that livestock. When we're talking about the cattle feeding, when we talk about dairies, obviously the ultimate goal always with dairy production is to get the processing. That's where the real job creation takes place, and it's also where the most value comes to you in the assessed valuation chain, if you will. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon to talk through some of those overall goals and share with you how we've been doing on that.
Good morning, Shannon Dick, Economic Development, Director of Analytics. I'm here to talk to you about numbers, which I've heard is your favorite part. Okay, so what I'm doing is we're looking at the Fruth plan and we're just taking out the stuff that has like some measurements and metrics that were outlined in there. There's a lot of different things, committees formed and all that kind of stuff. This is just some of the data that our targets were looking to hit. And what's really nice is a lot of these are 20-year goals. So we're 20 years from now, so we can really start to look at those goals and see how we did. The first task, this was on page 1, was over the next 20 years, Finney County will create approximately 3,700 primary jobs. So that was one of our goals. Different ways you can measure this. One of the easiest ways to look back in time to see what we have is the civilian labor force. So how many people are working? Okay, so we can look at how many people were working in 2005 versus 2025. And in 2005, we had 17,790 people in the workforce. 2025, we had 21,666, which means as of 2026, there is, let's see, I didn't do that subtraction right there, but there is an amount of people, 3,922 people that are employed, different. So if we just look at the number of people employed between 2005 and 2025, we hit that number. Now, the other thing we have that's a part of that equation is how many people do we have jobs for? We just don't have them filled yet because the goal was to hit the jobs, not people working in the jobs, is to make those jobs. So if we go look at a job assessment for our community, as of this was in June when I pulled this data, we were at 3,011 job openings as well. So between the two numbers, the 3,922 workers that we increased, plus the 3,000 job openings, that means over these last 20 years, we've created 6,933 jobs, which beats that goal by 1.87 times. So that's the first one. The second one, this is also from page 1, is the wage for the jobs created should be about 125% of the county average wage when they were formed. So a 25% increase of our jobs overall, these new jobs, we want it to be higher. And that's because you don't want to just make jobs, you want to make jobs that are good for people to take on, right? And it's hard to say what's the increase in the wage of new jobs, but if we just say what's the increase of the population in general, of jobs overall, if that's increased 25%, then we hit our goal because obviously we'd have to have those new jobs that would be even higher than that, right? So if we go look at our per capita income in 2005, it was $15,377. If we if we put that up to $2026, that's $26,000 about. So in $2026, the average income in 2005 was about $26,000. In 2025, our per capita income is measured at $46,628. So if we look at that, that means that we've had a 79% increase in all income, not just the new jobs. Across the board, we had a 79% income after inflation in our community. So that means we meet and beat that goal by 3.16 times. We had another goal that was listed out there was to have 500 acres of improved industrial real estate. And this is so that we were able to take on new industrial projects as they came. If we just look at what we have right now, so if we look at the DFA Jamison area, plus the Harmon property, the Western Kansas Corridor, Northwest Industrial, we have 527 acres available right now. But we also know we've had industrial development, right? So if we go back, and this is looking at some of our industrial developments in the past, and again, we're talking about the Montford ConAgra plant in the middle. This is what our area looked like in 1991. The red outline is industrial, green is the agriculture. That's gonna stay agricultural the whole time. That's the one that's getting taxed at about, we said 48 cents an acre right now. So in 1991, this was the situation we had in the southeast part of town. By 2002, we lost that industrial project, right? I mean, that was gone. This is what it looked like. If we step through the years, 2010, we can see the first start of the area that's going to be Wind River and Conestoga up by the intersection, by the bypass up there. 2012 is that first piece of TP&L, where we have the industrial part that in now is going to be empirical. So we have that. 2014, there's been expansion of TP&L. Continue on to 2017, we have a more expansion. 2019, we have a further expansion. This is about the extent of our TP&Ls now. But you can also see we've developed out on the western side of things. We have the DFA plant. We have Jamison Energy Center. We have Meese Trucking and so forth. And this is all stuff that's been developed. And then we have, what we talked about, we have empirical there. That's in that light blue where that original TP&L piece was. So what's the value? So not only do we have 500 acres that's right now available, which was the goal in 20 years from now, we've had hundreds of acres developed in between them. So what's the value of that 50 acres? So we talk about that part where empirical is at. If we're talking about agricultural use, if it's valued at the same rate of that Harmon property, we're talking about 50 cents an acre, so $25 or so of tax that comes in. But if we go look at that development, just that 50 acres where empirical is now, when TP&L was there, before we had any rail enhancement, the amount of property taxes that were getting paid there was $40,000 a year. Once we put TP&L and we improved it with rail, which brought it to a higher use, we're now collecting $387,000 a year. And then in 2024, when we had Empirical Foods, and Empirical Foods wasn't even completed at this time, so this isn't even a full completion of that project, now that's bringing in $8 million of property taxes a year. So that development is making that value grow a lot. And so if we look across all of Finney County, and we look at the real property valuation. So I'm just looking at real property valuations because the things that we can control as a economic development and as a community, we can't really control state assessed utility values. We can't control the gas and oil and those sorts of things. But we can talk about real property valuations. If we compare Seward, Barton, and Ford County, which over the last span from 2011 when we were formed to 2025, they were up on average 35%. Finney County was up 118%, right? Meaning that Finney County's real property valuations grew about 3 times faster than other comparable Western Kansas communities since 2025 up to 2025. Okay, next slide. So that means everybody had some growth, but we had more growth. So when we're talking about what is the growth of Finney County, that we can kind of say that Finney County Economic Development or the initiatives that we took on, like the Fruth Plan, what amount of that is just due to normal things like having a community college or being in Southwest Kansas or having all these communities have economic development groups? How much of that is due to those normal things? And inflation is another thing that can make it go up. And how much is above that? So if we're talking about things that we can really point to and say, these are things that we've done in Finney County that makes a difference, about 69% of the growth that we've seen since 2005, when we're talking about real property valuations, can be attributed to that. And about 30%, 31% can be attributed to things that's happening across all of Southwest Kansas that really we can't take any credit for. That's just happening everywhere. So we see that 69% that's really dedicated to the things that we've been doing in Finney County, right? So let's go look at those property valuations. Again, numbers, I know you love them. So if we go to look at 2011, we have $246 million of real property valuation. 2025, that's up to $534 million. So that means we've had a growth between those 2 times of about $28 million. Okay, so that means so that if we're talking about how much our property tax collections have increased over that time at the 43 million mills, that means we've had a property tax increase, so the valuation, and then we have a property tax that comes off that. We have a property tax increase of about $13.7 million. That's brought in addition to what we were doing in 2011, right? Because of the increase in valuations. So how much can we attribute that growth to things that we're doing specifically here in Finney County, economic development, and all the other organizations here, versus just things that are happening in all of Southwest Kansas? Again, that was 69% that was looking at that. So of that valuation of growth, we can say that just under $200 million is due to things that are happening specifically here with economic development. That means that if we're talking about the responsibility of what have we seen, the growth of the property tax collection, how much increase in property tax have we seen from what we've done? That's about 9.4, almost $9.5 million a year. So if we bump that, so that means the value of 1 mill in Finney County in 2025 was $600,000. And so the measured bump that we see from the efforts that we put in Finney County that we're not seeing everywhere else, just here in Finney County, we saw that bump of about $9.5 million, which means an increased yearly property tax collections led to an increase of 15.4 mills. So every year, the efforts that we put into Finney County Economic Development has led to an increase that's equivalent to 15.4 mills for the county. So to think about it the other way, if we didn't do what we did in the Fruth plan, we would have to have a mill rate to get the same level of services, because our mill would be worth less, instead of 47.453, we'd have to have a mill of 62.858, or we'd have to increase our mill rate 32.5% more than it currently is to get the same amount of taxes levied, right? Does that make sense? So the efforts that we've done increase the value, which means we need to have less mills, which means the property taxes is lower for everybody, and we can measure how much that is. We can also see in there that there's a funding plan for the economic development. And so if we look at the operations, the staff, industrial marketing, consulting calls, that's kind of all the stuff the economic development office does. There's other things in there like making business parks and stuff like that. If we just look at the stuff that they do, that the EcoDevo kind of controls, they would say in 2025 that the budget should be $1.2 million. If we look at our complete funding, not just from the county, but from all the member entities, we're at $664,000. So we're getting funded about half of what the Fruth plan calls for. So that's good. We can see some other things, just some other metrics that we had. They wanted to increase the amount of people getting trained by the community college. In 2005, full-time equivalent at Garden City Community College was 1,282. In 2025, we were up to 1,634. So that's a 27% increase. So that's above what we were going for. Next slide, please. Well, another goal was to, they really valued in that Fruth plan the connectivity that the airport gave. Said really make sure that to have more air traffic in there. Since that time, we've increased about 23,000 employments per year, which is a 236 increase at the airport. And if we look at other non-hub airports, so not Denver, not Kansas City, but just Hayes and Dodge and all the little towns that are comparable to us, the average growth over that time was 29%, and we grew 236%. So we definitely achieved that goal as well. And then the last thing that I pulled out that isn't really data, but it was a really interesting topic that was laid out in that Fruth plan is this high-speed telecommunications capability. And it's really talking about making sure that we're on the forefront of data innovations and technology innovations. And we wanted to make sure that we were always looking at the next step forward and that we take those and make a task force. And that's another one of those things that we've done as a organization is make sure we bring together partners like the county and the city and the community college when we're talking about new advancements in industry and technology. So that's something else that we've been doing there. So that was a bunch of data really fast. I'm trying to get through it as much as I can. Any questions? Okay, Commissioner Jones.
It'd be interesting to see the rate of growth of development, economic development, in the other counties that have community colleges.
Yeah, and so that's one of the reasons.
Compare that to the counties that have the higher institute, four-year college.
Yes. So I had part of that because I had when I had the peer communities and they grew this much and we grew this much. That's Southwest Kansas. So I mean, those were kind of similar demographic makeup, similar things. Now, if you're talking about us versus like Manhattan and Lawrence, even Salina and Wichita, it would be interesting to see. It takes.
County too.
Yep. Down southeast Kansas. It'd be interesting to see that as well, and that's something we can pull up and see what it looks like. But I know overall, especially when we're talking about some of those places like Manhattan and Salina and stuff like that, we've been outpacing them overall. So yeah, we can pull that and get that to you.
Okay. Just food for thought.
Yep.
Cool. Anything else?
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lana, I just have a comment for you. Watching and listening to your presentation and Shannon's presentation and the presentations that we heard at the beginning of our meeting this morning from the power companies, it is just like you said, it's math and science. They gave a lot of math and science in their presentation this morning, and that kept going through my head. It's like,
Yeah.
keep the emotion out of it. It's math and science, and I appreciate that. I appreciate economic development, the fact that you're always out there ahead of the curve working for us. Very thankful
Absolutely.
for you.
Thank you. We appreciate the opportunity to serve our community.
All right, next, we have a 2026 second quarter update from Luke Sullivan, Assistant Director, Finney County EMS.
Some of the wording might be a little different because my boss writes differently than I talk, so.
Okay.
In the second quarter, we had 1,045 calls compared to our first quarter, where we had 1,024 calls. Also, in the second quarter of 2026, we hired a person from our reserve squad to act as full-time, floating on all 3 shifts. So she basically meets full-time criteria, just doesn't work on one set shift. This has been working very well for the service and has been a good asset. Currently, we're sitting with 2 open positions, and we have already had, I think, 4 interviews for those 2 positions. We continue to conduct monthly training for our staff, along with separate trainings with the Garden City Fire Department. The trainings with the fire department have enhanced our operational efficiency. Station 1 is coming along nicely. The punch list items are being finalized this month, and we'll have the offices and bedrooms furnished by the beginning of August. At the beginning of the quarter, with school getting out, we had a lot of community engagement events. We are in the process of revising our internal policies and have recently made changes to our medical protocols, and they've been reviewed and accepted by our medical director. And then we got like our response numbers down here. At Station 1 response, we had 392 calls. At Station 3 response in the city, 189. Medical transfers, 146. Station 3 in the county, we had 66 calls. Station 1 in the county, 47. Garden Valley Retirement Home, 43 calls. The Ranch Retirement Home, 35 calls. And then Holcomb in the city response, 23. Pershing Manor, 23. Hospital transfers, 19. Tyson, 18. Homestead on Henderson Retirement, 17. LEC blood draws, 14. And then Holcomb in the county, we had 6. To the LEC, we had 5. And Pierceville, we had 2. And then just another breakdown, kind of how that looks. Oh, on the pie chart. Yeah, so about 42% of our calls come out of Station 1. 24% out of Station 3. Air transfers, 14%. 11% come out of the nursing homes. 5% out of Holcomb. And 4% are kind of miscellaneous other. And then our trip count for quarter 2, or it's actually shown for the past few years actually. For the period between March 2025 and May 2026, trip volume increased from 150 to 161, reaching a high of 217 in September of 25. Time variance analysis. Compared to the previous period between April 2026 and May 2026, overall trip volume decreased by 11, or 6.4%, from 172 to 161. Average trip analysis for the period between March of 25 and May of 26, average remained stable at 177. Our 3-year trip volume comparison, compared to previous years, we're just a little bit under from what the average is, but it's kind of chaotic, so there's no really putting a pin on that. And then our big payers, as you can see, are Medicare, Medicaid, or yeah, Medicare. They're usually at the top. All the rest are there too. The time variance analysis between, I think I already read most of that. Okay, never mind. Between March 25 and May 26, overall trip volume increased by 11%, by 11 or 7.33%, from 150 to 161. The main drivers for the increase were miscellaneous government with an increase of 7%, self-pay with an increase of 6 at 37.5%, and Medicare with an increase of 3 at 3.66%. I think I lost a paper. Oh, there it is. All right, so the deposit trend, 2024 and 2025, those are the full numbers there. And then for 2026, that is our year-to-date, coming in a little over halfway. Do y'all have any questions?
Any questions, comments?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I understand your graph correctly, the 490,000 current in 2026 is through June 30th?
Yes, I believe so.
So it's anticipated that you would have 880,000 revenue in 2026?
Yes, I believe so.
If it stays the same.
Mm-hmm.
And are you fully staffed at this point?
No, like I said, we've had four or five interviews. 3 of them were for part-time, 1 of them was for full-time, and they are still to go through their physical.
You have 1 position open?
2 positions.
Is that both full-time or 1 part-time?
2 full-time. Our part-time, I actually don't know the cap on that, but we've got about 5 or 6 part-time members right now.
Very good, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, very good. Thanks, Luke.
Thank y'all.
Good job.
Thanks.
7C, Quarterly Idle Funds Report.
Good morning again, Chair and Commissioners. Trista Joyce, County Treasurer. So KSA 12-1677B requires the County Treasurer to make a report of idle funds to the County Commission each quarter. So your packet includes the second quarter idle funds report. I'll go through that report in sections. So the first section contains information on the balances in our demand deposit accounts. So those are checking or money market accounts. The second section in the middle of the page contains information on our longer term investments. Right now we only hold CDs. Time to time we do hold treasury investments. And then in the third section is a summary of interest earned by quarter and year to date. In quarter 2 of 2026, Finney County accrued approximately $1.3 million in interest across all accounts. So year-to-date interest is approximately $2.2 million. All interest is posted to the general fund, with the exception of interest generated from the proceeds of the bonds that were issued earlier this year for the construction and renovation of the jail and law enforcement center. That interest generated from those bond proceeds will be used to pay down the bonds, so reduce that tax burden on our taxpayers. So overall, if I subtract out that interest that is posted to that repayment fund, about $524,000 was posted to the general fund in quarter 2 of 2026, and $1.2 million year to date.
Very good. Any questions?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
The funding of the interest on the bond proceeds, doesn't that go directly back into the bond fund? As I recall, the interest income was calculated as to the total cost of revenue for those projects. Are you telling me that we're not using the interest to increase the size of the project fund?
We could. So there are 2 options. Right now we have it earmarked for bond repayment, and that's really to make sure that we do have, that we use it for the best purpose that we can. If we decide to use it for the project, then, we obviously could do that. Those are the 2 options with that. It just cannot be posted to the general fund and be used for general operations. So, yeah.
I remember a commission directive that we would pay down bonds rather than have additional funds for contingency of the projects.
Right. In the conversation with the half-cent sales tax, we talked about having 2 options. One, possible use to extend or to expand that project, but it was the commission's goal to, if possible, retire the debt service earlier to take that sales tax off the burden of the taxpayers.
For now, we're just allocating the funds, correct?
Correct.
We have not made a
No, and, you know, an update too on the jail detention center project, we'll get the guaranteed maximum price. So it's kind of going to give us a better idea of where we sit with the jail detention center on what can be spent on the law enforcement center as well.
Very good. Any other questions? All right,
Thank you.
And 7D, County Administrator update.
Nothing further to report?
Very good. And
Susan? Yeah, she's going to get to it.
yes, for, under department reports, is that?
Oh, yes, sorry, Darwin. Lee, come up, sorry. My apologies.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair. I'm Lee Routh, Deputy Appraiser, Finney County Appraiser's Office, and I am here this morning to make you aware there will be public hearings and proposed resolutions for American Implement and Empirical Foods, Inc., EDX tax abatements at the August 3rd Commission meeting. American Implement broke ground in 2024 and completed the project in 2025. In September 2024, the board tentatively approved a 20% abatement for up to 10 years. Empirical Foods, Inc. broke ground in 2020 and completed the project in 2025. In June 2020, the board tentatively approved a 60% tax abatement for up to 10 years. The next steps in the process include public hearings for both. As I stated, this will occur at the August 3rd Commission meeting. We have scheduled times of 8:45 for American Implement and 8:50 for Empirical Foods, Inc. Publications and notifications are being made as required. Following the hearing, staff will proceed to prepare materials for submission to the Kansas Board of Tax Appeals. Any questions?
All right, any questions for Lee? Very good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And next is Susan. Good morning.
Good morning. Susan Richmeyer, Finney County Attorney, and I'm here to give you a biannual report of what we've brought into our office. We had first quarter, we just added our numbers to that first quarter, and I can give you some differentials if you request same. So far, we've had a total number of cases come into our office of 782 for 2026. We have filed 652 of those cases. 32 have been declined, 49 are under review, 8 have been referred back to law enforcement for additional information or investigation, and 41 children have been referred to our FIT program, which is outside of court programming in the hopes that we can avoid having to charge them with a crime. So that is our first half. I think of note, which kind of happened Friday afternoon, we had appealed a case to the Court of Appeals on it was a really big case for us. It was on human trafficking. Our court, after preliminary hearing, had dismissed that case by saying we did not have probable cause. We won our appeal on Friday. The case was reversed and remanded back to Finney County District Court for us to move forward with that hearing. So in other words, Court of Appeals found probable cause. We can now move forward with that human trafficking case, and I think they did a very good job of outlining what the parameters are on human trafficking in that opinion. It is a first impression case for the state of Kansas, meaning that particular statute had not been litigated. So a lot of people had thought labor trafficking is not important. In our opinion, it is, because just because you're here illegally does not mean you should be hurt or harmed in any way, oppressed in any way. And we felt like that was what was happening, and our law enforcement did an exceptional job in getting us there. So we just need to be able to carry the ball further. Because we're 3 years post those initial arrests, we don't know where our people are. We'll be working to see how we can move forward with that. But that's a big win. not only for our office, but for the state of Kansas and prosecutors across the state. So that's a big one. And we also had a flood on Friday. So 2 big things for us. The basement was flooded, and Nolan's crew came and did a good job of cleaning that up. But I think we'll be dealing with that as we move forward to figure out the why, so it doesn't happen again. But it was a stop to business for a few hours as we cleaned up all of our storerooms and carpeting, etc. So I don't know if you have any questions with regards to what
No
we
questions, but that is good
have
news
going
on
on.
the trafficking
Yeah.
appeal. I appreciate that.
Yep, we have some very skilled lawyers doing good work, so.
Any questions, comments? All right, thank you so much.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
And do we have any other department reports?
We do not.
And upcoming meetings and events, that schedule is available. It's available on our website as well. Reminder, the fair. Pretty exciting. And our next meetings, I do see July 21st, which is tomorrow. That will be at 10:30 a.m. That's going to be held, the joint session that will be held at the city offices. And then August 3rd, regular session, and August 17th, regular session. I don't believe we have need of an executive session today, is that correct? So we will finish up with commissioner reports after Commissioner Schultz gets the fly well done. He's been bugging me all morning. Commissioner Utes, we'll start with you.
I attended the LEPC meeting with emergency management. The interesting presentation was by our emergency manager, who actually went down to Clark County and responded to those fires to assist. And he was able to, with his knowledge and that, was able to save Clark County from having to spend money out of their own pocket versus, I mean, we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. So kudos to Paul. He's doing he did exceptionally with that project, and with his wisdom and knowledge was able to help another jurisdiction. That's all I have.
Very good. Commissioner Basque.
Attended Convention and Visitors Bureau meeting last week, and basically was briefed, the board was briefed on preparation of information that we asked for about their organization. Also attended via video the extension group committee. I'm having a brain freeze about what their actual name is, but
West Plains Extension.
West Plains Extension, yes. And they're continuing the process of disbanding, and so I was forwarding information provided by them and K-State about the process that we need to go through to continue that process so that we're ready to go on January 1st. I have forwarded that information to Derek and his crew. The other thing, I just wanted to take a few minutes. It's just an observation from today's meeting, different presentations that were made to us. The first one being Sunflower Electric and Wheatland Electric. And what I'm doing is taking in information. I'll continue to study and educate myself on the different issues that were presented to us today. But one of my observations was it seems like it could be ironic that we have a water usage issue around here. And the ironic part to me is it's very possible that the consideration of data and solar and wind might end up being one of the things that saves us a little bit on our water usage or consumption. And so I'm going to continue to study and educate myself, as somebody had mentioned earlier, that they've learned more about data and solar and everything than ever, and I'm in the same boat. And so I'm going to continue to educate myself on that. The second thing is about budget and property taxes. We kind of heard two sides of the story today. One about not cutting funding to one of the organizations, and the other one was about some property tax relief. My one observation that I've made, but I'll continue to educate myself, is that I believe that if our county valuation stays steady, and if we just leave the mill levy steady, that every year we will have to continue to cut services because our costs will continue to rise every year unless we don't ever give staff raises, or if the cost of supplies and equipment never raise, but that's not going to happen. And so if you just remain steady, you're always going to have to be cutting every year services just to maintain the status quo. So that's something that I observed today, and I'll continue to educate myself about. And the third thing is about economic development. And one of the presentations that a lot of the economic development that we've had in the last 20 years is basically kind of ag-related. But my observation takeaway from today is that for us to continue to be an ag-related community, and we have less water to utilize, that we may have less dependence on ag and more dependence on industry type things, which is what we're going to be considering in the future with solar and wind and gas-powered energy generation, data, and all of those kind of things. And for us to be able to grow our valuation base, we may have to look at other industry other than what we've looked at in the past in ag. So I guess I just want people to kind of, observe and think and study and educate yourselves on everything, just like what I am. And I will continue to grow and develop my thinking about stuff, but I want to look down the road 20 or 30 years, as somebody mentioned earlier, that we won't be here, probably the members of this board, but the decisions that I'll be making will be for the benefit of my kids that live here and my grandkids that live here and my nieces and nephews and everybody, because this is where I was born and raised, and I want us to keep growing, and I don't want us to step back and be one of those dying Kansas communities. That's all I have.
Very good, thank you. And Commissioner Schultz.
Madam Chair, good morning. And I think the one thing that I'm going to encourage people to do is vote. And I note on the upcoming meetings and events, the clerk has properly identified that her office is open at 9 a.m. this morning through 4 p.m. weekdays for in-person early voting from now until the 28th of July. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
No, through the August 3rd.
Through August 3rd.
The 28th is a late night.
Okay. And last chance to vote early is 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Is that correct?
Yes, on August 3rd.
You're going to be open till 12 at night?
Oh, 12. No, 12, that's 12 noon,
12
sir.
p.m. Excuse me. So noon on the 3rd.
Scared me for a minute.
Okay, well.
I mean.
All right, I'm just trying to make sure that everybody in the public knows that the chief election officer and this clerk is providing what I see is the greatest opportunity to get in here and vote early and make your voice heard on the elections. And of course, we have a constitutional amendment on the ballot as well. And I just want to let you know, Dory, that I appreciate the efforts of your office as the chief election officer, but also the volunteers. How many volunteers do you have with early voting?
Right now, about 10. But once we get to Election Day, we'll have close to 100.
And that's all to make sure that we have safe and secure elections here in Finney County, and urge you to get out and vote. And when you get a chance, make sure you stop by and tell both Dory, her staff, and the volunteers that we appreciate their public service. I did attend the Senior Center's board meeting as a liaison to that board, they have, as their chair voiced to us, some cuts coming from the state. They provide the same service to handicap and senior individuals for transportation in this community. And of course, I made a presentation to them last Friday with regard to the impact on seniors of increases in the ad valorem tax rate and how it adversely and peculiarly affects our senior citizens should a tax rate be approved by this commission. I attended the chamber membership breakfast, and I didn't get to stay for the whole presentation, but there were some wonderful presentations of incredible things happening in our community, as there is each month at the chamber breakfast meetings. A great opportunity to see what's going on in our community and what the chamber's doing to also facilitate growth in our community. This is a team effort, and I can't help but to thank economic development for the work that they do. And the product of that work is an investment of tax dollars with a great rate of return. And we should remember that as we go forward. We need to invest in our future. As Commissioner Baskew said, at least as to me sitting in this chair, I will not be here 20 years from now. Longevity is not one of my family traits, but I can tell you that I believe our growth in our community is attributable to leadership, not just fortune or mistake. And I think that we need to continue to do the things that we need to do in order to attract, maintain our incredible economy going forward. That means also we have to hold the line on taxes. End of footnote.
Commissioner Jones.
Well, it's a little hard to follow these testimonies that everybody's giving today. I think I'm going to say ditto. But,
very well said.
I will not be here as of January 1, so don't worry about that. But I do plan on living to 20 more years. I hate to put a ceiling on anything. Thank you.
Except the mill levy.
Except mill levies.
You know, that's a good point, and I somewhat take offense at the comment that we don't care because we're not going to be here in 20 years. We care about this community, past, present, future, all of us. You know, we're paving the way for the future for our children, our grandchildren, and your children and your grandchildren, and we care about that. So I think it's important that people do understand that we don't just sit here thinking of ourselves and what's going to benefit the community today. It's about what's going to benefit the community long term, just like we saw presented this morning with the Fruth Plan. And you know, if we said, oh, we're going to die, let's just sit here and cry about it. And we didn't do that, because that's not what the people of Finney County do. We see a problem, or we see a challenge, and we face it, and we attack it, and we move forward for the betterment of the community. And I think that's what has allowed us to be so successful. I did attend a meeting in Topeka regarding data centers, large load, and comprehensive utility planning summit. Lana Duvall, our very own Lana Duvall, was a presenter. She was excellent. I think she provided probably the best testimony at this meeting. I am so thankful that we have her, and so proud of all that she and her team have accomplished. And I witnessed yet again her get another job offer, and she gets job offers all the time because people see what she's doing, and we are so fortunate that she chooses to stay here and take care of the citizens of Finney County. I'm very thankful for that. That, I think, is all that I had as far as things that I attended that I really want to talk about. The last thing that I would like to mention is I would really like to see the citizens of Finney County talk to your state legislators about overreach, state overreach into local governance. I've seen that happen in the past. I see potential for that happening in the future, and I think that's something that we need to let them know is not okay. That's all I have for today. If there's nothing else from any of my fellow commissioners, we will stand adjourned.
Oh, no, motion to adjourn.
Okay, well, I guess we have to have a
Second.
motion. All in
his
favor?
motion.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. We are adjourned.